Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, based on the location you are joining. I welcome you to the session and Fabric Global Online Conference on Semantic Link in Microsoft Fabric, why Power BI developers can fall in love with the notebooks. My name is Amit Chandak. I am a Chief Analytics Officer at Canarica. I am a Microsoft Data Platform MVP and Power BI Community Super User. I am a YouTuber and a blogger and keep on writing down on Microsoft Fabric. It gives me immense pleasure to do this session along with my mentor, ex Microsoft, ex MVP, Pawel. And Pawel is currently CTO of Infinite Data Services, and he is instrumental in bringing this particular session. He has a great knowledge on all the topics related to Microsoft Fabric, and I have been asking him a lot of questions during his stay during the Microsoft, and made sure that I learn all those things, and that's where you are seeing too many stuff coming out from me. So thanks, Pavel, for sharing us all the information. And I would like you to hand over this session to take us through this wonderful journey of semantic links in Microsoft Fabric.
Thank you, Amit. I think you're a bit too modest. You're a great professional as well. I benefited from that when I used to work for Microsoft. So welcome everyone. Just to let you know, the purpose of this session is to make you familiar with Semantic Link, and we assume that most of you are Power BI developers, Power BI professionals, data analysts working with Power BI every single day. And we find this specific feature of Microsoft Fabric, Semantic Link, specifically useful for you, even though it was originally developed for different purposes. So let me start with a bit of disclaimer. So we find, together with Amit, we find Semantic Link as a super powerful tool for not only Power BI developers, but greatly, I would say, I would expand it to Fabric, to whole Microsoft Fabric landscape. However, keep in mind that there are some scenarios that might be not considered as best practices. So even if those scenarios are possible with semantic links, we would encourage you to think twice whether you should apply semantic link in specific scenario. And what I mean by that is, for example, using semantic models and the data that is loaded into semantic models as a source for your data science experiments. Typically, we would rather advise to go and work on the data that is presented in some backend layers of your data platform instead of semantic models. But again, this is a bit of disclaimer. We will present you with several use cases that we find useful, and I consider them as some of the good practices that you may follow when using semantic link. Before we jump into semantic link, I will briefly go through Fabric and several glossary terms that are related to what we will be showing today in our extensive demo. So yes, there will be a demo. A significant part of this presentation will be demo in Microsoft Fabric environment. So let's start with Fabric and let's consider where you will be applying semantic link in your environments. So as you probably know, after this conference and after all other conferences related to Microsoft Fabric, Fabric is a software as a service platform that greatly expands features originally provided by Power BI. So it's no longer just a business intelligence tool, but rather the holistic platform for end-to-end solutions for analytics. Now, we will be talking specifically about several workloads that fall into Fabric. So we will, of course, touch and scratch Power BI because this session is for Power BI developers, but also we will try to connect Power BI to the world of data engineering and data science, because we will be working with items that are typical for those two workloads. So actually, semantic link is a kind of a bridge between those two workloads and Power BI, and that's how we want you to remember this specific feature. I won't go into details of how Fabric is unified, etc. Just you probably noticed that that Power BI and Fabric are right now one environment, so they have the same user experience. They share the same governance, look and feel. So you basically can create more item types than just reports, semantic models, dashboards right now in Microsoft Fabric. So let's move. Let's assume that you know what Fabric is. That's assumption number one. But I had to tell you what we will cover in this session. Now, there are a couple of terms that we will cover during showing you scenarios for semantic link. So OneLake, it will show up in several places. We will be reading and writing data from and to OneLake. So that's why it is important to understand the concept of OneLake. So just to, again, remind you what OneLake is for Fabric. OneLake is a central data lake, which is created in the very first moment when you spin up your Fabric tenant. When you have your Fabric tenant, you already have this single data lake for all your data that you will create in Fabric or you will ingest into Fabric. So thanks to that, every single item that is designed and developed to store data will or can store data in the same data lake. So data can be easily shared across the whole platform. And that's the reason why OneLake exists. Also, remember that Microsoft standardizes on Delta Parquet format or Delta Lake format, which is an open source format, and that makes the platform open for collaboration with external world, external services like Databricks, for example. This will not be covered in our presentation. However, we will create over time some items that will reside in OneLake. So that's why it is important to know this concept. Another important concept, very much related to OneLake, is one copy, because I mentioned that Fabric stores data in Delta format in the central data lake, but over this data you can use different runtimes connecting to one data stored within this one central data lake. So as a Power BI developer, you typically used to work with analysis services engine, so Vertipack. But you will also see that in our demo, some lakehouse will happen, some access and exchange of data between different items may also appear. So again, the purpose why OneLake exists is to avoid copying data between different places in Fabric platform, and that's the basic of how Fabric really works, and that's one of the beauties why Fabric is actually a game changer for analytics. Now, another important topic is a shortcut. Actually, shortcut is a great way to make sure that you can bring external data to Fabric. So you can actually connect to external data lakes stored within different clouds, not only stored in Azure. You can connect to S3 buckets. You can connect to Google Cloud Storage. You can also connect to your existing D365 solutions like CRM, for example, and bring data thanks to those integrations. Now, this actually works a bit like data virtualization, because you don't bring this data. You can bring this data to OneLake, but you don't have to, because you can simply connect to those external services and see the data like it was in OneLake. It's not the only purpose of shortcuts. Shortcuts also allow you to exchange data across different items created in Fabric. So imagine that there is an existing database, lakehouse or warehouse on customer 360 view created in Fabric. You can easily connect it with finance data that is stored within another data item in Fabric, because you can create a shortcut. So shortcuts are broadly used by Fabric developers, and that should be your way of thinking when you move your mindset from Power BI to Fabric, that you should use shortcuts, not to avoid copying data from one place to another. Just make sure that you establish knowledge about OneLake and shortcuts before you start working with Fabric, because otherwise you will end up copying data between different places, the same data not in sync, which is again a scenario for creating data silos. So having this knowledge, one lake, shortcuts, and also another feature that is super important from Power BI perspective, which is called Direct Lake. Those three features we, together with Amit, we consider as, I would say, key features that exist in Fabric and that you will for sure be working with. So last one, the Direct Lake, is all about connecting the dots between existing modes in Power BI. Historically, we used to work with import mode and direct query mode. Import mode, we all know that this is the fastest mode in Power BI. You simply load all the data into semantic model into Vertipack engine, and you have this data well compressed, ready to use with reports. It's if you develop your semantic model appropriately according to best practices, the model and the reports based on this model should behave like rapid, fast, blazing fast performance. You click and things are happening. So this is actually great for user experience. However, if you need to show the data like it is in a data warehouse or lakehouse, you can switch to direct query mode, which is all about sending SQL queries back to the backend engine. Of course, in this case, you will see, let's say, near real-time data, the same data as it exists in your backend system. However, the performance is heavily relied on this backend system, so it's typically not that fast, or I would say much slower than import mode. So that's why to get today, we face the reality where most of semantic models are being built on top of import mode. That's the reality. Now, Direct Lake, just to let you know, is a fast path to load data into the Power BI semantic model without the refresh process. So, well, there is some refresh process, but again, I will not go into detail. But in general, imagine that you have a combination of import mode and direct query mode in a single mode. I think there was at least one session on Direct Lake at this conference. I don't believe this topic wasn't covered. So again, you should refer to other sessions. But just to let you know, in case when you have some big data stored in a lakehouse or warehouse, Direct Lake may be a way out when you want to show the data as it is stored in a backend items in Fabric, not run import mode all the time. And why actually Direct Lake is so important for semantic link topic? Because originally one of the reasons why some people at Microsoft started working on extending the capabilities of semantic link was migrations from existing import and direct query modes to Direct Lake mode. So this is actually one of the key features for Fabric as well. Now, with that, once we have those glossary terms established, I will switch to Amit and let's talk about semantic link and the crucial item for us in the demo.
Yeah. So notebooks, I think if the people who are coming from the Python world or those who are dealing with the Spark or Databricks, that's not something new. So notebooks are basically to explore, analyze, and visualize data. Usually, the first choice, it was the first choice for data scientists. They used to bring in the entire data on the notebooks. You can use in case of Spark, because these are Spark-based notebook, you can use PySpark, which is Python Spark, Spark R, Spark Scala, and you can also use Spark SQL. Now, these are the languages which you can use, and then you can analyze. Now, notebooks provide you quite a few facilities, which include you can do the documentation on top of that. You can create data frames. Those data frames can be used to analyze the data, just like you're seeing on the screen where the display has been used, and then you can create visuals. And then so this is basically a powerhouse which uses the power of Spark, which can extend the your data analysis experience, or in some case data transformation experience, uh, where you can do it on a huge amount of data within few minutes or few clicks. So that is what the power which notebooks brings in, and with an intuitive UI where you can do with a very a common experience which was there available with the Python developers in the past or the Spark developers or the Databricks developers. This is something new for our Power BI developers, but yes, we are Power BI developers going to explore this and get more information using what we are going to learn today in the Semantic file link. Okay, so semantic link library. So basically what happens is when you go to the Python Spark notebooks, what typically we do? We read the lakehouse data, we can transform this, we analyze that, and then we finally, if we transform, we will save it back to a lakehouse. And this is what our exercises were. What happens is after you have this, you are all, gold layer sorted out, you created your schema, um, that's the entire analysis are going to happen on Power BI. So what we do is on our lake houses or on warehouses, we go ahead and create a semantic model. On that semantic model, we write down these business models, business logic in our measures. Now these measures are one which is containing the logic. Now, if the data scientists want that logic from us, in a previous world, they have to go ahead and code that logic back into their Python formulas. But why to do the two stuff? Because the entire philosophy around Fabric is to reduce any kind of duplication of work, whether it's a data copy or whether you are working on some formulas, etc. And that is where the semantic link library comes really handy, because this one library allows you to use your measures which you have created on your semantic model into the Python notebooks or Spark notebooks. And that this comes with a lot of power. Now this is not only the thing which is coming in this library, comes in with lot many things which you can do. You can plot relationship, you can look into your workspace capacities, etc. So a lot of power has been provided to you, so we'll go ahead and explore that out. And yes, these are the packages, and some of those packages we are going to explore in today's session. And in the end, Paul is going to share the links where this notebooks would be available, and you will be able to import that and able to utilize that. So we are going to look at the some of these, like which are packages like SAMPy Fabric, SAMPy Relationship, SAMPy Dependencies, SAMPy Functions. These are the some of the packages which are available, and we are going to explore that today.
Yep. Let's jump into the demo. Before we start the demo and before Amit will start elaborating on our demo notebook, let me just make you familiar with the environment that we set up for this demo. So we basically will have everything stored within a single Fabric workspace. So if you are familiar with Power BI workspaces, this is nothing new. You just have to notice that except reports and semantic models, we also store other types of items like notebooks, lakehouses, etc. So we have a single demo notebook set up here. And just to let you know, typically a notebook can be a standalone item that does something for you when it comes to data engineering or data science or any other stuff related to Fabric data processing. But also there are cases, and this is our case, where notebook is actually attached to a lakehouse. So in our case, there is a default lakehouse that we will use for several use cases in our demo. So there is an admin lakehouse existing and connected to this notebook. Just to let you know. Right. So let's jump into the notebook and the demo of our use cases.
Okay, so as notebooks are pretty powerful, they provide you different kind of cells, and one of the type of cell is markdown cell, where the you can do the documentation. And as you can see, uh, initial slides we have presented this one, but this entire thing has been documented here, so that when we go to share, Paul go to share the link, that when you import it, you get all the useful link and documentation about this one. And these cells help you in understanding your code better. And every time you are doing that stuff, make sure that you do documentation. And you would have got idea by looking at this, how Powell has done it, that how can you make sure that your notebooks look too good and it's very informative and your code is properly documented. So we are not talking about something which is not documented, it's properly documented and falling in a flow. So
If
this is
you're
markdown
familiar,
cell problem.
if you're familiar with, for example, Jupyter notebooks or even GitHub Markdown, this type of Markdown and how you build documentation for your code actually should be pretty much similar.
Yeah, and Fabric is bringing everything best from the universe to here for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first step in this case is to install the SAMPy libraries. Now, many times when you work on the notebooks, you already get quite a few libraries, but in this case, we are going to install and we are going to use the magic command for that. So percentage pip is the magic command which we are going to use, and we will use install semantic hyphen link. That's the library which is going to help us in using the packages which we were talking about. So we'll install this using this one, and then we will use the next command, which is the next magic command, load extension, load ext sampy, which is going to load this into our notebook. And this will help us to now use all those packages which we are looking forward to explore in this session.
Yeah, one note here about this pip install. This is actually a pretty common way to install any type of library, and it's not the only option you have for installation of libraries. However, this is the dirtiest and the quickest one, because you just install this specific library into your session in your session in the current session of your notebook. So that's the quickest way you can install any library, external library that you want. So we just take semantic link into our notebook. Right.
And just to let you know, the magic commands allow you to go beyond what you are doing on your top selected language. So in this case, we have selected PySpark Python. So let's say if I want to run SQL, Spark SQL, I could have used percentage SQL, or I can change the language at the cell level. So
Yep.
this is something. Yeah.
We don't want it to be SQL. Most of our code says to be Python, so that's why you will see PySpark Python small in most cases. But as Amit mentioned, it's super simple. It's super easy to switch between languages and enable those magic commands. Yes,
So
Aziz, thank you for
anytime.
your comment. There is a comment from the audience. All packages also can be set in environment. Just one thing, I will not run this notebook just to save some time for our presentation. But this notebook would normally work in interactive mode, which means that I would base it on a starter pool, which starts in, let's say, 10 seconds instead of custom environment starting in 2 minutes. So remember, once you start working with environments, importing packages as a setup for your environment, not importing them into notebooks, you can start noticing that the time to start your session will be significantly longer, in minutes instead of seconds. So that's the caveat. Right.
Okay, so to start, we are going to import the SAMPy, and then what we are going to do is we are going to try to list out what is there in the SAMPy. So for that, we are going to use this dir command. And once we get this information, we would immediately like to print it. So we are using the print statement. And now this is going to tell us what is inside this one. So we have dependencies, we have fabric, we have relationship. So all these packages are there, and functions packages is also there. So these are the packages which are inside this SAMPy library, and we are going to explore them. Now, the next thing is, and some of these things may repeat in the future cells, but remember, once you have started your notebook within same session, you don't need to import them again. They are already imported. But yes, here what we are going to do is you might find this code repeating. So we are importing sampy.fabric as fabric means now whenever I want to use something from sampy.fabric, I can use fabric.something. Similarly, sampy dependencies, sampy functions, sampy relationship we are doing. And now we would like to know what's there inside those ones. So again, same function, dir on the fabric and then print. And now you will be able to see there are a huge number of list of things which are available inside this library, which has been shown to you. You can see list table, list report, list relationship, list violation. And this helps you to, get into the what kind of functions you have. Definitely documentation is there, but you at least know, okay, what we are getting into it.
Yeah, there's also a good advice from Vijvani. Uh, yes, in the newest Spark runtime, semantic link may be already there, so there's no need to install semantic link externally. Thank you. That's a great advice. We assume that you may run different runtimes, so this pip install will still work in other runtimes than just the newest one. Thank you. Absolutely good idea and good advice. So why we actually decided to present you with this, because this approach can be used not only for dealing with semantic link, but also with other libraries that you may be working with in the future. So it's a pretty common way to dig in your libraries and find out how to use them, right? Next thing would be to get some help on your functions and classes, right?
Yes, so you have the help function available. So we can just, let's say this time we imported the uh, fabric again, and which is not needed if you have executed the previous one. So fabric dot list items is going to tell you what is the objective of this function and how you can use this. So all this information has been provided. So let's say you need the arguments there, type optional str equals to none, workspace, then you can give a workspace name as a string or as a UUID. This kind of information is there, and this there is a return type is also going to inform you what is the return type. So it's return a list of items in the specified workspace. So this is going to
Yeah.
list the items in this workspace.
That doesn't release you from reading the documentation. The documentation will provide you with much more than just this help. But to get some first understanding, or let's say the list of parameters of specific method, you can just simply use this help function. All right. Let's go to our cases. Number one.
Yes, so now we are going to look at the functions which can go to help us at the tenant and the workspace level metadata. So this entire file has been designed that we are going from top to down. So we will start from tenant level, go down to workspace level, and then slowly go down to the each objects and finally reaching the semantic model. So what is the first thing you want? You want to know what are capacities I have. And there is a simple function, fabric dot list capacities. Here fabric is the sampy.fabric library which we have imported. So list capacity is going to give you that. ID is the ID, which is the unique ID we have, followed by the display name, SKU, region, and the state. And as you can see here, most of the things are inactive because we have experimented with that. So these are the inactive ones, and then there would be at least one active one, and which you can see below that FT1 is one of the active capacities which we have.
Yeah. This is the one that we are hosting our workspace on. So yes, we are running on trials, and we encourage you to use trials for experimenting with Fabric. You don't really need to spin up commercial capacities for that.
And I think
Especially
one of
now,
the, yes,
sorry.
please go, please.
Especially now when some security features move to trial as well, and below F64 capacities. So F64 might be a good way to experiment with co-pilots, but for other features you no longer need F64 plus. All right,
Yeah, and
let's
I think
go.
the biggest thing which I like in the fabric when it came in is that, this trial for 60 days, and some of us enjoyed is more than a year now. And
Yeah,
I think this is one of the best way one could have explored that environment and know how to, do use everything. And now we have, different kind of models which how to use various things. So it is great help. And if some of you
absolutely,
not started, please go ahead and do that.
absolutely.
Next is
So
now,
yeah, so we
yeah.
we moved we moved from listing capacities to down to listing another level of details,
Yes.
right?
So list workspaces and so in the Power BI world, we know that the workspace is the container of the report, dashboard, semantic model, etc. Here, in case of Fabric, it goes little beyond that. We have lake houses, warehouses, even notebooks are the part of this. So everything which you are creating under one workspace, and the security of the workspace apply on that, and then you can have granular level security. Again, this command is going to give you ID. Is this read only? On demand capacity, is it on demand capacity or not? Means on demand and the committed capacity, you can have two type of capacities. Then the capacity ID.
Mhm.
Then we have the default storage format. This is large and small storage format. They have their own advantages when you use them. Then the type is workspace. Most of the time it is going to workspace other than one which we have admin inside. And then we have the name of the workspace.
Mhm. Just a note on this. Keep in mind that this list that is returned by list workspaces method is actually pretty much the same, which you can see after you click on the workspaces icon in the Fabric UI. So it's actually a list of all the workspaces that you as a user have access to through different airbag role on the workspace level. So that means you will not see all the possible workspaces. It's not the same as the view of workspaces in the admin portal. So it will not be suitable for documenting the whole tenant, but it will be suitable for documenting a project where you sit on multiple workspaces as a member, administrator, or contributor. So that's how it works. Right. Let's go down from workspaces to specific items.
Now, if you need to list a specific item, there is something known as list items, fabric.list items, and then you provide what type of item you need. So type is basically notebook in this case, and the workspace is SQL demo. So in the SQL demo workspace, please show all the notebooks, and the notebooks, we have the ID, and everywhere you'll get this kind of ID, which is, I think, around 64-bit. Then we have the display name, the description, the type, and the workspace ID. So in that particular workspace, what are the notebooks we have and what are the IDs for those?
Yeah, so definitely just keep in mind, again, you need to have access to specific workspace to be able to display a list of workbooks, of notebooks, or whatever item type you wanna show. That's one. So as you can see, we are displaying a list of notebooks from a different workspace than the one that we are actually working in. All right, so let's maybe connect the dots and let's try some combining two methods.
Yeah, and I think these commands, admins are going to love more than, Power BI developers, because they need all the list of everything what is there inside the system and what is there. So they're going to love this. Okay, so next thing is, we are trying to combine two things. So what we are trying to do here, so first of all, if you look at the inside part, there is a what we are trying to do is we are trying to list the workspaces. What kind of workspaces we are limiting it by query. So in is a dedicated capacity equals to 2. So only dedicated capacity equal to 2, we are trying to get that workspaces. Now we got all those workspaces ID, and then we are trying to loop that workspaces IDs and pass it on to the list.items workspace equal to ws. That's what you have in the for loop, and that is what we are passing here. So now what this is going to do is this is going to list all the items in the workspaces, and then what we are doing is there are two results at or two data frames which are there. We are concatenating that information using pd.concatenate, and then we are trying to put it together. So we will have ID and display name coming from the item and description, and then the type and workspace ID. So these two information we are combining now.
Yeah, so down to the type column, you have the metadata of your items. And finally, you also have workspace ID, so you exactly know where the specific item is stored. So this is a way to document the items that can be spread among different workspaces, but they all create a single project, for example. Right. Now let's move a bit outside of not of natively available methods, because we also have some great classes that greatly expand functionality of semantic link.
So what we are doing here is basically we are trying to get the information using the REST client. So Fabric REST client. So first of all, we are creating an client equals to fabric.rest API client, the client which contain the information from the REST API, this object we are creating. Then we are using the second one, which is response. And this response is going to capture the client.get, and then we are passing this string, which is the path of our packages, which we are trying to explore out here. So admin.tenant setting, what is there in the admin.tenant setting? We wanted to know that. Now, this information which you are getting here is going to come in a JSON format. So this API, what we are calling tenant setting, the information is going to come into JSON format. Now, you can't simply display the JSON format. We'll not understand that. Or even if you display like using print, you would like to see that into a tabular format. So first thing what we do is we try to normalize this JSON, and then so first response.json, we try to find out the first object and get the entire data for that. So tenant setting is the first level, which we are going to get using response.json and the passing by tenant settings. And then we are going to normalize it to put it into a data frame, which is kind of a tabular format, and then we are displaying that data frame. This is the information which we are getting.
Yeah, so in this case, we are calling specific API from available Fabric APIs. So what you should do, if you're familiar with Power BI admin REST APIs, this is actually expansion of Power BI admin REST APIs. So you can get a lot more than just tenant settings, and we will be showing some different examples as well. But we find this one specifically important because it is natural for Fabric and Power BI administrators to be willing to track how their tenant options changes over time, uh, especially if you have multiple administrators on the tenant. So this actually allow you to capture the current state, maybe write current state down. Now we have expansion for this little demo further, because instead of just reading those tenant settings and displaying them in the notebook, you can go a step further, right? So
Yes.
in this
So
case,
yes. So what
go
you are
ahead.
doing in this case is basically you got a data frame, which is pandas data frame. Now pandas data frame cannot be directly saved as a delta Parquet file, which is basically what we require for the fabric to be saved. So what we have done is first we converted this into a Spark data frame and then create data frame df, which you are passing the pandas data frame is getting converted into df spark, which is spark data frame. Now then we are selecting the column. So df.select is going to help us in selecting the column. So we are selecting three column: tenant setting, groups, title, and enable. Then we are writing it down. Then we give the options. Option is override. We want to override this,
Yeah.
and save as table is the option which allows you to save it as a table. And in this case, in Fabric, the good thing is the environment is set up for us. The lake is already set up for us. So whatever we are going to save here, tenant setting is going to save in our lake, which is already being selected. So this is one of the advantages. So if you're coming from Databricks world, you might have little settings for that. But here in case of Fabric, it's pretty easy. We have a lake and it's going to save it there.
Can we replay the tasks from yesterday? I don't see the way to replay the tasks. So notebooks can be scheduled for execution regularly. So you can, for example, execute notebook every single day on a regular basis. Also, notebooks can be orchestrated using another item existing in Fabric, which is called pipeline. So you can make it a bit of bigger orchestration story than just execution of a single notebook. You can also if you want, you can build workflows or pipelines from multiple notebooks, so you can connect notebooks together and execute the whole chain, or even run those notebooks in parallel. We don't have examples on that, but I think you will easily find it either on Fabric updates blog or some community blogs. So yeah, that's absolutely possible and doable. All right. Let's go. Maybe let's speed up a bit because we have still a lot to show and still in case one. So very similar technique for listing domains. Very similar technique for listing specific items from current workspace. The only thing to note is that you can parameterize your calls for APIs. So for example, here we are passing workspace ID, an item type, but in general, this is another API call. So you still have to rely on documentation of Fabric APIs. You need to know how to call those APIs, but in general, the technique is pretty much the same. You create the Fabric REST client and then just pass over a specific API call. That's it. Okay. So let's maybe move to another topic, which is documenting semantic models, right?
Okay. So we want to list the data sets from our semantic model. So we have fabric.list data sets, and then we have to pass the workspace ID or the workspace name. And this is going to give you a data frame, and which data frame you can simply print. And then you will get your data set names, your data set ID, current timestamp, and last updated. So right now, whatever you're seeing are not having any last updated date. And we are also calling PySpark SQL functions here, one of the additional items which we are going to use a little later.
So I misunderstood the comment in the chat. Yes, the attendees were asking about sessions, but anyways, we just mentioned some additional information related to our sessions. Sorry, I just read very quickly the comments in the chat stream. Sorry, no worries. Okay, so once we have a list of semantic models, we can go down, right?
Yes, and now you have the semantic models. The semantic models will have tables. So what you need to get the tables, you need the workspace. So workspace name you can get and dataset name. So if once you supply the dataset name and the workspace name to the list tables, you will get that. Now we have already shown you function. In case you want to supply the IDs, you can run the above commands and you can get those IDs. And then you'll give the name of the table, a description if you have given there, hidden or visible, data category, and type. So most of these we are
Absolutely.
displaying tables, so they're type table.
Super cool. All right. So what about listing columns? If I go down, narrow the view to specific table in semantic model.
So now one more step down, we have one function list tables, and you can supply workspace, dataset, and table name. And that is going to give you the entire list of the columns of that table. And then this huge description, you will get data types, you will get the name of the column and every information which you're looking for. And then extend it true.
Yeah. This is important because this is how you get really extensive description of your columns, including some columns that may help you in typical Power BI exploration of your semantic model. So, for example, you can go and check column cardinality, total size, dictionary size, and in case of using direct lake or testing direct lake mode, you will be most interested probably in temperature column, which shows you which columns have been actually read to the memory from some data sources. So again, this can be a great help when you explore different things related to your semantic model and how it works, right? Right. Measures.
And this is the most important thing, and this is what I like because I can get list of my majors and the evaluate major post that is even more important. So list fabric.list majors, only two arguments are sufficient, data set and the workspace. You just give those arguments and you get all your list of majors and what expression they have, what is the data type, and if you have formatted the string, you are going to get that information. And this is something,
Absolutely.
if you want to see otherwise, you need a lot of effort. But come to Python here, notebooks, and you're done.
Yeah, well, one of the big references here. Keep in mind there are some folks doing great job in the community, including Sandeep Pawar. So if you want to see how to get the most out of this view and also format the measure expression DAX code, just visit Sandeep's blog, and he has a post on that. So I think we refer to Sandeep's blog in many places in this demo. All right, let's go and do some drawing.
Yeah, so we have this library in the semantic model where we can draw the relationship of our model. And for that, first of all, you need to get the SAMPI relationship. You need to import that. So plot relationship metadata we are going to import, and using that, we are going to run this function fabric.list relationship. First of all, we'll get the relationship into data frame, and then we're going to pass that to plot relationship metadata, which is actually going to plot it. And this is how it's been plotted. And as you can see, there's a relationship one to many of geography with targets and orders, same with the date. And the product says only having relationship with the order table.
Pretty much, I would say a bit uglier than data model view in your Power BI, but it does the thing in terms of documenting which tables are connected to which tables, right? All right, let's run some diagnostics.
Okay, so now what we have to do is we want to run this evaluate DEX expression. So for that, in the SAMPy, we have this evaluate DEX. Now this will allow you to, run a DEX query. So what we are doing here in the my data set, we are running this select measure, attribute, data type, data dictionary paginated from system.discover storage columns order by dictionary description. And
So
then we are printing that.
just to be clear, this is not DAX actually,
Yes,
but
yes, I agree.
it's a DMX. So pretty much the same as you can do in DAX Studio or other tool that allows you to write some code on top of your semantic model. You can operate with DAX, but also with DMX, which allows you to query the metadata of semantic models. So this is another way to query metadata in a more specific way using specific queries. It returns pretty much a similar view as the view of your specific table, but in this case, it will show you all the columns from all the tables in your model. So again, it's a great way to find out how your model behaves. Okay, let's go further. Can you actually read the data? You're muted. Sorry, Amit, you're muted.
Yeah, oh, sorry. So fabric.read table help you in doing that. So data model and the table name, and we are going to see the data of that product. So that
Yeah.
table, and here we are seeing the data from the product table. So we have product ID, category,
Yeah.
subcategory, and product name.
As you can expect, this can be a way to bring the data from your semantic model to some data engineering part of Fabric, so you can get this data down to the data frames and play in a notebook with data from semantic model and some external data not coming from semantic model, from any other item, basically. All right, there is also a way to evaluate measures.
Yes, and this is the one I was talking about in
Yeah, I
between.
know.
Yes, I was expected about this function because usually when we use the notebooks, we were only talking about the tables which is coming from the lakehouse, but this is one which is going to allow us to evaluate our measure. So as whatever hard work you are doing, the data scientist team, or if you are doing that work, can be used here. So evaluate measure, and then the model, the table, and the measure we are giving here, and that's going to evaluate and give us the data. So here we are getting the product categories and the major sales. So sales is the measure which we are evaluating and grouping it by the product categories. So product categories grouping and the sales is the measure which we are getting out here.
I don't have to mention that and stress out that this can be a way to actually run some unit testing on top of your data. So you can actually check whether a semantic model contains the data that is expected, and just do some reconciliation reporting, whatever is on your mind. So absolutely great method to master, right? But there are also other methods to get the data from semantic model, including evaluating specific DAX queries, right?
Yeah, so whenever you want to evaluate a DAX query, the expression should contain evaluate. Evaluate, if you have used the DAX query view in Fabric or in Power BI, you know that you need to write down evaluate. Summarize column is going to help you in getting the data summarized across dimensions, and then you can have measures. So
Yeah.
here we are trying to group the data for time month, and we wanted to get the sales measure. We for measures we are going to do renaming. For group wise, we are not going to do that.
Yeah.
So this is going to group the data by months for sales. Summarize column is going to help us out, and we are evaluating, and then we pass it to the this string. We are going to pass it to evaluate DAX with the dataset name, which is semantic model, and the DAX, and then we are doing this head 20. We are only want to display 20 rows from there.
Yeah, this is another way to evaluate the data that you have in semantic model and compare it to, for example, data sitting in a lakehouse or warehouse, just to compare whether things load appropriately, whether you construct the appropriate DAX. Just another scenario. You can also run DAX directly in your code cell. Now that's an interesting one. This is actually the purpose of loading this extension SemPy, because it actually brings the magic command %% DAX into the game, right?
Yes, so now we have one more magic command, and the magic command percentage DAX, and then we are giving the model which we have wanted to use with this
Yeah.
command, and then we simply write down the evaluate statement. So no more going to those
Yeah.
functions. You can simply write down just like DAX, like
Well,
you could have
let's
done.
be honest. This is only for displaying data and
Yes.
evaluating the data, let's say manually. But to automate it, you will still rely on evaluate DAX. Okay. Right. Let's maybe also go and just mention that you can run SQL on top of your semantic model. For that, you have to load this specific connector, Spark connector for Power BI. Once you do it, you can use you can switch to Spark SQL language and use this specific naming convention: PBI dot name of your model dot name of your table, and operate with SQL on top of your semantic model. So it's actually doable as well. All right, I think we are a bit running out of time, so let's just mention another great thing for Power BI developers as well.
Yeah, so refresh semantic model is basically you want to refresh your semantic model. So very simple command, refresh data set. And the data set is the previous word which we used to use. And then we have the workspace name and the data set name which we supply. And you can also go ahead and do selective partition refresh, which is also possible if you pass the additional arguments.
Yes, so make sure you visit again Sandeep's blog. Sandeep has a great article on how you can refresh individual tables and partition using semantic links. So this is pretty much the same code. This one is simplified just to show you the scenario, but you can of course expand it greatly. All right, let's move to some not that much Power BI scenarios, but still, once you jump into Fabric World, you will probably would like to expand beyond Power BI. So, for example, you may want to use semantic link to programmatically create workspaces. Just use create workspace method. The only thing you need to pass is the capacity that will be backing your workspace and the name of your newly created workspace, and that's it. If the workspace with this name does not exist, it will be created. So as simple as that. Another case is creating a lakehouse. So when you want to create a lakehouse that will be used for storing your delta tables as a backend for your semantic model, that will be storing raw data in files, maybe even some unstructured data. This is the way to go and just simply create a lakehouse using a single line of code and the create lakehouse method. Again, the only thing that you need to provide is the name of workspace in which this specific lakehouse will live. And also you can use code and semantic link to create shortcuts. I mentioned that shortcuts are super important because they allow you to avoid copying data and creating data silos. So basically what you can do is you can call you can use another API call. In this case, we will call shortcuts API. And this one is very special because you need to pass some JSON body which contains all the details from which part of one lake you create your shortcut to which part of one lake, so where the shortcut will be actually visible as a table or as a folder. So in this case, I'm just creating a shortcut between two parts of one lake, between two different lake houses. I'm pointing to let's say a table in one lake house and create a shortcut to this table in another lakehouse. This is as simple as that. And you can also do some functional dependency checking. So for example, if I have a flat data set based on just a single Excel spreadsheet, I can just run find dependencies method and find out which columns in this flat data set are somehow correlated, which makes a great entry point to data modeling. So when you want to create star schema, the very first thing you try to notice is how the data is related, and this can greatly introduce you to the data set and then make the way you work with creation of data of star schema for semantic model quicker. And also the same method, or pretty much the same method, list dependency violations will allow you to detect when you have any violations when it comes to let's say detected dependencies that normally would suggest creation of separate tables, for example, fact and dimension, but then you can detect that it would mean some many to many relationship, which is not that great for semantic model, as we know, or for any star schema. So this will also show you some problems with data that you may have to work around or address before you start doing your star schema for semantic model. Um, Also, in the examples for semantic link, you will find some samples related to data quality management using Great Expectations package. But the great thing is also that Microsoft expanded beyond semantic link. Recently we got the announcement of Semantic Link Labs, which is actually a continuation of work of Michael Kowalski from Fabric Customer Advisory Team. Michael started with the assumption that he's going to develop a library that will help moving from Power BI existing semantic models in import and direct lake mode to in direct query and import mode to direct lake mode, right? But over time, because there were different requests from customers, he expanded the library to, and actually right now it does a lot of things for Power BI developers. I'm bringing just one example. After you install Semantic Link Labs, which is an open source library served by Microsoft on GitHub, so it's publicly available for you, you can go and use, for example, run model BPA method on top of your semantic model. And guess what? It runs best practices analyzer on top of your semantic model, just like you would do on using tabular editor, for example. And it returns you an extensive results informing you what problems you have within your existing semantic model. So this is a great way to, work on the quality and best practices within your semantic models. If you check out the semantic link labs, you will find out a lot of useful functions. For example, you can use a function to translate the metadata of your semantic model from one language to another, from English to Spanish, for example, or to Polish, right? So again, Fabric offers really great number of capabilities like built-in AI functions to operate with, for example, translation on the fly without the need of external F64 capacities, of course, in this case. And you can actually use it to quickly and automatically rebuild your semantic models, reports, etc. So I really encourage you to jump into this GitHub link and check out the Semantic Link Labs. With that, and with just 1 minute left, let me switch back to the slides because we still have a lot of resources for you. So first of all, I will paste the link to my GitHub repository because then there you will find everything that we presented today. Not only the demo but also the slides. You can use the slides as a reference to click and visit all the resources that we list there. So just go to.
Hey, Pavel, you might have to show how to import that also.
Yes, I will just quickly show it. So this is one. Now, I'm not sharing semantic models that we used for the purpose of this demo, but I'm pretty sure you have your own semantic models. So just go and import the notebook to your existing Fabric workspace where you have your semantic models and play with the code on top of your own semantic models. That will probably bring you more value than playing on demo semantic models. Also, Amit recorded a video on semantic link. Just make sure you watch it. I mentioned Sandeep's blog, lots of resources on semantic link. There is a 1-hour tutorial by Will Needham who has a full course on Microsoft Fabric. Also, Will produced this nice Excalibur diagram, which we presented in the slide deck. So again, lots of great resources. And of course, Semantic Link Labs is a must-have for Power BI developers. Michael is constantly developing this library and expanding the functionality of this library. So absolutely, you have to check it out. With that, we also have one more slide that we typically put to, especially for people who are not that much into Fabric. We encourage you to, first of all, kick off your trial. So just make sure you try Fabric. 60-day trial will help you to learn and establish the baseline. Then join the Fabric community. There are hundreds of people, including Amit, who is a super user of this community. They answer questions, so you can ask even the most basic question or the most sophisticated question. There will be someone to pick it up. You can also use Fabric updates blog to keep up to date with the latest features. This is how you can really find out, for example, what's new in Semantic Link as well. So there are lots of learning resources, including free courses, free online courses from Microsoft Learn, and free end-to-end scenario tutorials, which are available in documentation. And one last step for you. Let me just briefly, for those of you who are not that much into Fabric, let me show you how you can import the notebook after you download it from GitHub. Just go to your Fabric environment. Make sure you have Fabric enabled, of course. But when you have it, switch to the data engineering or data science experience or workload. And after that, click on the home. Of course, move to your workspace before that. And then you have this option, import notebook. That's how you can import the IPy file, which contain all the code that we presented today, including the descriptions, link, and everything. So make sure you master this technique because it simplifies the way you can learn from others by just importing their code. Right. With that, we can take some questions. If you have any questions, this is the this is the great moment to ask. Apologies for taking too much time, but as you saw, we had a lot of demo to present.
I think this is one
Um,
of the most comprehensive collection of things, which Powell has bring in together. And when we were practicing, I said, this is one of the best collection of all the functions which I have seen. I have done something in the past, but this is one of the most comprehensive, and I think you should go ahead and try that out. And and then the new library which is coming in from Michael is also you going to help you in doing most. And what I liked is one of the performance tuning stuff which he has given to check out these things that the last one which Pavel has shown, that's really good because you would like to analyze your model and how for the different aspects, and that library is going to help you out. So that's really helpful.
I have one last comment about our session. Keep in mind, if you are a Power BI developer or you are not that much into Fabric, Spark notebooks, none of us, neither Amit or me, we are not Spark developers. We haven't played with Spark notebooks in the past. I'm coming from SQL world. Amit comes from the Power BI world, but we find this technique and the way you can work with notebooks on top of your semantic models and the Power BI stuff really useful. It can greatly expand the way you automate things for Power BI, you work with Power BI, you document things. So all the scenarios we covered today. I'm pretty sure you will quickly discover how to productionalize the code, how to make it robust and automated for your purposes. Right, I don't see questions coming. I hope you I hope you liked it. Typically, when I don't see questions, it means one of the two things. Either it was good or it was bad. Thank you, Muhammad, for your comment. That makes me thinking it might be okay. All right. Thank you, David, for the opportunity to speak at the event.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Pavel. It is really amazing. And it is a great opportunity for me to have a session with Pavel.
Yeah.
It was a long due, and finally, I was able to have this along with him today.
If you folks have no questions right now, maybe something will come to your mind later on. So just as a reminder, jump into LinkedIn. You can find both of us easily. Either me or Amit. Just ask questions, share your comments. Feel free to connect. We are absolutely open to also learn from you because we realize that Fabric is still not that old platform. So we are also learning from each other. So absolutely open for comments, maybe your own implementations, observations, and how you use semantic link in your Fabric environments. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, morning, or afternoon based on the time zone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Pavel. Thanks, David, for this opportunity.
Cheers.